Chit Chat is sponsored by Fun Again Games, where everyone is welcome at our table, and your source for hard-to-find imports, liquidation games, new releases, and much more. Be sure to visit funagain.com to check it out. On episode 113 of Chit Chat, we're trying to navigate all the big box games that seem to be hitting tables these days. For some, these games are a mystery, but we're here to guide you through with some of our thoughts on tackling these monsters. Welcome back to Chit Chat. This is episode 113, and sadly, we are without Emily tonight.
Yep.
But we're going to be talking about big box games, and we have our own resident big box gamer, Jeremy Howard, is here with us. Jeremy, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me back. We finally linked up again. It's the new year, new vibes, and definitely a lot of big box. What is going on upstairs? Oh my God.
You got something crazy going on?
I don't know, man. I hope there are no casualties, is what I'm hoping.
Maybe someone was lifting a big box game upstairs.
No, they're falling down because I have so many to play.
By the way, Jeremy, nice new do. Is this your first video with the new do? Except
no.
you're solo.
Well, if you haven't watched my top 10 solo games of 2022, then you can definitely watch that video where I unleashed that upon the community. So if you don't recognize me, yes, it is Jeremy Howard, but also you can check out that top 10 2022 video, which I would love for you to check out. Lots of community members, not just community members, but also content creators and just normal people, man. So yeah, it was a great time.
It is a great video. If you haven't checked that out, definitely check it out. It is a really cool sort of thing that I want to do more of on the channel, but Jeremy's been the one spearheading that.
Jeremy
last
knows.
couple years.
He knows everybody.
He knows everyone.
That's the good part.
And now he has that beautiful baldish head. It was bald, but now it's a little fuzzy.
Yeah, it's a little fuzzy, like a little silver. I'm going for the silver fox.
Little
I'm
salt and
embracing
pepper
it.
coming in.
A little salt and pepper.
Like you didn't know you were coming into the makeover edition of Chit
No,
Chat.
yeah,
but
we're not
that's
talking about games tonight. We're talking about hairstyles. Ryan's wearing a hat. That's a fashion choice.
It is a fashion choice. I worked a lot today, and I really do need a haircut. I should just shave like Jeremy.
He does need a haircut.
Just get it all.
He desperately needs one. We are going to be talking about big box games, and what we mean by that is not just games that have big boxes, but kind of.
Yeah, no.
Also games that just come with lots of boxes.
I was going to say, it's not necessarily one big box.
No.
It's sometimes like 12 smaller boxes.
And even by small, they're still pretty big.
It's
not like small, tiny little boxes. But we're going to be talking about those, and also like whether we have room in our lives for them, whether anyone has room for all of them in their lives, because there are a lot of games, and I haven't traditionally played a lot. I think, Jeremy, you've probably played more historically than the two of us, and then Ryan, but then I'm kind of like the newcomer to the big box, at least on the miniatures front.
Yeah, I mean, I've been collecting big box games, like that style of game, for a while. I mean, technically, like the early Zombicide games from CMON were one of the first I remember where it was like, just you get so much content, and it felt really cool with Zombicide. You're opening all these boxes, and now I'm at a point where it almost feels like too much, because I get so many of them, and it's like I run out of places to put them. I end up selling some of them. I don't even end up playing all the content in a lot of them.
It is a bit much. Jeremy, how many big box games, if you had to categorize your collection, how many big box games do you have?
Well, I just had a mass exodus of them.
Oh.
So I had a mass exodus of them. But if you're counting by boxes, I mean, we're still in that somewhere in the, let's just say 30 to 50 range.
Yeah.
Like, let's just say that. And if it's by like titles, we're still talking like there's got to be 10 to 12 titles. It's just a whole bunch of expansions and extra boxes for them. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking at them right now. I mean, just big box games, not even just campaign games, but these big boxes. I'm Skyrim. Solomon Kane has 10, 15 boxes. Super Fantasy Brawl. We got Aeon's Trespass over here. We got, all these Dice Thrones, Hoplomachus Victorums, all the Lacerdas, all these gigantic boxes, and just ones that have one game in it, which is just huge, or a big campaign game with a ton of expansions, or just a catalog of several titles like Dice Throne. Just so much content inside of these boxes. There's so much opportunity. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have, but gosh, man, I mean, there's also that pressure that's created where it's like, hey, it's not just space. I think space is like the first indicator. So it's like, whoa, I don't have a lot of space. What needs to go? And more than likely, it's going to be a bigger box game and not a whole bunch of small ones, because you can kind of like validate that. But I would say once you start getting from the space argument, then it's like, which one of these am I going to really play? And that's where like people start taking, the games that take longer, they start falling out of love with them. Or the ones that's been sitting there shelf for a year, they were like, oh my God, I really want to play that, but it dies off. That's the big dilemma with these big boxes. When does it start to hit you? And I feel like the first one is space.
Yeah, space is definitely a constraint. I mean, that's a constraint here in my house significantly, because there's box stacked up all around us right now. But one of the things I wanted to talk about specifically, at least the big boxes that have hit sort of my collection and my time lately, and that's some of these miniature games like Massive Darkness 2, Oathsworn, to a lesser extent, and by lesser extent I mean no extent yet, Frosthaven.
Oh yeah.
These are all big box games that offer a ton of content, regardless of the number of boxes, size of boxes, what have you. They all have a lot going on. You can play them for a ton of time, months and months and months. But I don't know how to balance my time with them. And also, some of them, and I bring those three up in particular because those three offer similar yet very different experiences, in my opinion. I haven't played Frosthaven yet, like I said, but when I talk about Massive Darkness 2 and Oathsworn, a lot of people have been asking us lately, because a lot of people have been seeing some of our videos and been asking us these questions. Which one? If I was going to get one, which? And I have a really hard time saying which one.
Yeah.
Because one offers, Oathsworn is very story and sort of guided. And if you want that sort of narrative experience that feels like you're playing a movie or a story, Oathsworn is the ticket, unlike Massive Darkness 2, which doesn't have really that much at all. But Massive Darkness 2 is a great one-off scenario, ton of fun. Like if you just want to sit down at the table and have this type of experience and guaranteed have a lot of fun, Massive Darkness 2 is probably the ticket. And probably for more types of gamers, where I think a lot of more casual gamers might have trouble getting into Oathsworn, at least the encounter side of Oathsworn.
Yeah, I mean, any of these games, these big box games, I think require a level of dedication, not just to that game, but to the hobby. Because I know for me, we talk about space, sure, space, we can find space. I cannot make time. How many big box games have we started where you even really enjoy it? And you're like, oh, this is going to be so good. And you run out of time. You don't even ever come back to it. Next thing you know, how long has it been since we played Descent, which we never finished, right?
We played it once or twice, maybe.
And it was like, oh, this was really good. Oathsworn, we're, on chapter 3 right now?
We are in chapter 3, but I can tell you this. I am dedicated to playing a lot more Oathsworn. Will we get all the way through? I don't know.
But I'm looking at that right now, and I'm looking at like how much I'm enjoying Oathsworn and how much I'm ready. I think even tomorrow we're going to play probably another one of the encounters, but I'm dying to play more Oathsworn, but then I think like, okay, well there's like maybe 17 to 21 chapters. How do I play that and also still get games in like Undaunted or Frosthaven?
Or even games, just games.
Because I look at Oathsworn and I'm like, I'm going to be playing this game for a year. And like, I don't know that, Jeremy, I know probably you have multiple campaign big box games going that you bounce between. I don't generally do that. I generally play one until it's done. When we're done with Oathsworn, there will be probably 5 or 6 other giant big box games that have released.
Yeah, Jeremy,
I just don't have the time.
Jeremy, how many do you have going on like right now? I know a few of them.
So I have Stone Saga, which is coming to Kickstarter. I got that on my table right now. They gave me 3 scenarios, so I'm working through that. My Frosthaven campaign is set up back here on the other side of my camera. And then we're starting Undaunted Stalingrad next Sunday. So I knock them out. Like when people ask me questions about this stuff, like it's because I played it. And most of the time I try to dedicate my time to each game that's a big box game for like a month, at least 1 month. So that way I know I've played Like, I've played my purchase enough to be excited about it and know how I feel about it. I don't guarantee myself that I'm going to play through anything. Like even Frosthaven, like I may have to know that I'm going to have about 2 or 3 months of time where that's what I'm going to be focusing on. And that's what it's going to be. But like for right now, I'm working on things. That's what I'm going to be working on, and just playing that. But I think what's happening now is more so than ever, games that are not like Townsfolk Tussle and Massive Darkness 2, there are not enough of those coming out, which are just scenario based. There's too many lifestyle games coming out. And when I say lifestyle games, like when people say there's too much content, well, Solomon Kane is not a lifestyle thing. It's actually like one act. You can play it in a full night, or if you had a game day like I have, every third Saturday, you could play a full 2-act book and you'd be good to go. Whereas like Aeon's Trespass is a full-on lifestyle game. Similar Kingdom of Death Monster, which is a full-on lifestyle game. Like they're chain scenario. There's a chain world. You're building a world. Frosthaven's like that. Yeah, you could stop, but you're building a world. You're not just playing a game. So it's more than. It's a lot more than people think. I'm looking at Hunters 22 AD. You literally are building a town. You're going through a town of shops and different things and going to different areas, setting up a board, fighting that out, doing the scouting, come back, set up the town again, go and do that, do your base. I mean, there's so many of these games like that right now. I worry about people not even attempting to enjoy it because of the dauntingness of like, I got to read this 60-page rule book, this 50-page rule book. That's the barrier of entry. There's just so many lifestyle games coming up that people get excited about it and they don't realize until they get the truth that this is too much for their life. Because if you're going to play a game like Aeon's Trespass, you got to dig in like probably a week just to get it right. Like a week. Like how many people can dedicate a week to learning the rules and getting it right, getting through the FAQs,
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point as I called you on the phone earlier this week because just keeping all of these systems in your head when you're like bouncing around, but even just one game on Oathsworn, there's so many little details that we were trying to get right. And you and I had the conversation of like, yeah, but sometimes you just say, no, it's okay, it doesn't matter. But I start obsessing about wanting to get this game right every time we play it. So even when I'm not spending time playing it, I'm actually spending time obsessing about whether did we get these rules right, because I want to make sure and get them right the next time in terms of like movement during the encounters and that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, we've had that several times at Oathsworn where there's a big pause break of like, okay, we need to go to BGG. And I think there was a big issue in Oathsworn where we just pulled something off that felt bad. We were like, wow, we really shouldn't be able to do that much damage. Like it was, but and I feel like this is a problem that I'm seeing a lot in these big box games because they don't want to have 100-page rule books where they have these insane glossaries. But the problem with campaign games, the problem with big box games, lifestyle games that just keep releasing content, is it gets difficult to even remember the base rules by the time you're like into like the 10th chapter and you've introduced all of these new mechanics and all of these new ideas, and you start to forget even some of the basic things, and you realize, oh, we haven't been like flipping the event card every round or whatever we're supposed to do. Like, and you realize you haven't done that for the past 2 scenarios, and then with you it's like, well, how do you come back from that?
Oh yeah, I mean we've played some games recently where we got into it and then we were like, should we just start this over and play again another day, because this won't feel like we won if we continue on like this.
We did that with Oathsworn. We just were like, I think we played the first scenario and we were just like, yeah, let's play that again. that was pretty tough. I would say to you, David, if you ever have a problem with being like a rules lawyer about certain things, just become a solo player. You will do less of that.
No, I don't know. Well, maybe.
You want to know why? Because nobody's checking, okay?
No, but I can't help myself because for some reason, it's like the mystery of wanting to find out. It's like literally when a mystery is put at my feet, and even if that mystery is how movement works in game X, I need to get to the bottom of it because like I want to feel like I'm following the rules correctly. And it's usually when there's just some edge cases. But that is one thing that kind of like we were talking about. It's a little daunting to even get into a lifestyle game. It's even more so when you consider that it's more than just sitting down and playing the game every once in a while. It's really learning it and really absorbing it and knowing so that the next time you play it, like thus far on Oathsworn, we've been able to sit down, set it back up because we know exactly how to set it back up and play. But man, if we were playing Oathsworn and then we got sidetracked for a few weeks, like Frosthaven or something, it would be a challenge to get back into it.
Well, I think, I mean, the model of these games, and a lot of these games are, crowdfunded games, and there's a model of, we're going to drop everything at once. So, like, I play Marvel Champions, which is a lifestyle game. It's an LCG. New packs come out all the time that introduce new rules over time. So, it might be a couple years of content releases that build and build and build. And if you jump into it at year 2 and you've just got all that content spread out in front of you, it's daunting. And I feel like every big box game I buy is like that because I'm getting what might have been 2 years worth of releases in a normal chain, in a normal cycle, but it's all coming at once because of the way crowdfunding works. And sometimes I'm like with Massive Darkness 2, I look at that, I'm like, I don't even know which box to open first. You know what I mean? When you start adding in all the expansions and stuff.
There are a lot of, I was just sorting through all the boxes. My Massive Darkness, there's a lot of boxes if you have the all-in on that. Not to go back to space, but Massive Darkness 2 is taking up like half of a bed top in a guest bedroom here. Like, it's a lot of boxes, and I was looking through them just kind of trying to consider, how could I consolidate these? And I'm one of those guys, I do not like the idea of taking out the packaging and just dumping a bunch of miniatures and stuff in a box. So I might need to look into organization.
Well, Bloodborne was even worse. Do you remember seeing pictures of Bloodborne where people would stack it from floor to ceiling? Yeah. I didn't back that one, but I saw that and I was like, you know what? I would never play all that content, but I still felt that FOMO of like, man, having all those boxes.
So with all that conversation about big boxes, what big boxes are still on the horizon? Like, what do we have coming in 2023? Because I know it's going to be a lot. Both crowdfunding that's going to launch, but also stuff that's going to deliver. Is there anything you've got coming?
There's that. Jeremy got me on that one, and now, of course, Jeremy got to fill in the blank. What is it, like Primal? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Primal.
Yeah, that looks like one I'm going to really want to dive
So
into.
Primal is going to have one gigantic box, maybe 2, then a whole bunch of expansion boxes. I don't know how they're going to do it. I'm ready to pay extra shipping already because I think it's going to be taller than a Command, a Command Marvel United pledge. Like, these are big monsters. I did a preview for that back when I first started on the channel. It was my most anticipated game about 2 years ago, and I'm just really excited about it. But then in the same breath, in that same year, Iridia launched. Iridia, which is like more like a Zelda kind of Tales of, type game. And that's a gigantic one. That might make it out this year. Isofarian Guard, gigantic box.
Oh, is that this year?
Gigantic. Yeah, I actually had the pre-production box.
Oh.
It's huge. It's huge. And that's only for one player. It's 2-player, but it gets to 1 player. Like, it's insanely large. It's so large. So you got some really big box games on the horizon. A game like Senko Kenshin, which is launching. That's another Aeon's Trespass KDM level size box. There's so much on the horizon. And we're going to be lining up to get this game, so.
Everybody's going to be lining up. And how many of us are going to complete even one of them? Like, that's kind of crazy to think about.
Well, in terms of the campaign stuff, I make no guarantees. But there are some big box games that are coming that are just big boxes, but games that are not exactly considered like big miniatures games. Something like the Lagrange Special Edition, Deluxe Edition. I don't know if Castles of Burgundy is going to ship this year.
Yeah, Castles of Burgundy is definitely going to be big.
I believe that The Witcher might deliver this year, and that has a lot going on. I mean, they added a ton of content to that game. But it's not like a big miniatures game. I mean, there are miniatures, but you're effectively just moving around a map.
Well, sure. I mean, we've always seen games like that, like Rising Sun, which was huge boxes, but yet you play a game that's an hour and a half. Ankh was the same way. Like, Ankh had like probably 6 or 7 boxes.
Yeah, I just pulled that out this last weekend, and we were gonna play, and I was like, holy, like, what do I bring? Like, how much stuff do I bring here? These games are beasts, and that's not a campaign game. I was gonna say, even going back to the space thing that I was off on a tangent on, like, all those Lacerda and Eagle Griffin games are like this entire shelf right behind here. You know, like, some of these games are they're just beasts, you know? Like, if it's not a campaign game, some games are just getting bigger. Just bigger. Yeah. If you have, what is Hippocrates? What is that? I think it's Hippocrates by Game Brewer.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a gigantic board. The board is huge. You know, like, it's abnormally huge. It's bigger than Lost Ruins of Arnak. It's a big situation. You're like, all this for one board game? You know, like, you know, it's just a different landscape we're in right now as far as what we're doing with these board games. They're getting bigger and they're having more content, which is great. And one thing we didn't mention is with that comes a lot of errors, lots of errors, lots of rulebook errors, lots of big FAQs, you know, lots of just possible misprints. You know, things that were overlooked. That's a big thing.
Well,
with
yeah,
a lot of big games.
You've got every expansion. It seems like every one of those boxes you open it up and there's a rule sheet of like, here's some new rules that are introduced for this scenario. And you know, games like Oathsworn, it's like, and most of these games, I think most of these like what I would call like boss battler games, where every boss has their own unique mechanics. A lot of those rules are literally referenced just in that one paragraph, and if you don't understand what it's saying, there's nowhere to go look that up, except for the FAQ or BGG or something. And, you know, I don't think it's a good idea you don't need a rule book that's so thick that has like every possible question. But that's what BGG's for. I mean, I'm glad we have that.
No, I enjoy.
But I also worry about Boss 21 being balanced.
Right.
You know, like, that's the key. It's like, is Boss 21 as balanced as the first 5, which are absolutely amazing and tight? You know, like, that's what I worry about with a lot of expansion boxes. It's like, is Solomon Kane Heart of Africa just as good as Solomon Kane America the New World? And like, did they have a ton of print errors in one box and the other one? You know, it's just, the more stuff, it's also more worry about balance and all these different errors and issues that pop up.
So those are the big box games that we've been playing, the ones we're looking forward to. We're probably going to talk about a couple big box games when we talk about the games we've been playing. But before we move on to that, we do have a giveaway this episode, and it is for literally a big box game. This is from Queen Games. It is the second edition of Alhambra.
Oh yeah, that's
big box.
Big box.
It is the big box Alhambra second edition. So if you email us at mvmcontest@gmail.com with the code word
Alhambra?
No, not Alhambra.
You put me on the spot. I've never played the game.
You know what?
So
Alhambra.
I don't actually know. Like, I like to like come up with some clever word but I've never played it. I don't even know.
Jeremy, have you played Alhambra? No. Oh my gosh. You know what? I've never played Alhambra.
So none of us have.
Hopefully, maybe you won't win it. Maybe we'll just keep it. I'm just kidding. Email us with the code word Alhambra. It's right here down at the bottom of the screen if you don't know how to spell it. And you will be entered to win a copy of the Big Box Second Edition from Queen Games.
I was going to go with the designer's name, and then I realized I don't even know the designer.
Oh, I don't either.
So...
But thank you to Queen Games. Thank you to Queen Games for supplying us with this copy.
I mean, it's supposed to be a great game, and it is another one of those big box collections.
It's a classic.
Which again, we're not going to talk about that. But man, how many big box repackagings of games with all the expansions are coming out lately?
Oh, I know.
Like Everdell and Quacks of Quedlinburg big box.
That's how the term first got kind of started in our industry, where these people who took all the old, like, you know, I don't know if there's a Dominion big box, but old games like that, where there's like Alhambra, Merlin has a big box, all sorts of stuff. So what have we been playing that, whether it's big box or not, Ryan?
Big box stuff. Well, I mean, most of our time that we've been spending has been playing through Oathsworn. Over the last couple of weeks, we have played the first 2 chapters of Oathsworn, which doesn't feel like a lot, but that is quite an investment of time when you're considering we probably spend most of our day on, I mean, maybe even just doing the story part and then coming back the next day, doing the encounter and then doing the story part. And
I can't remember, on the first chapter, I think we played both.
And then the second chapter, we broke it up because it was a long one. So we did that. And also, if you want to check out, we have a just played video coming out. We finally got a chance to play Village Rails, which is one that I've been sitting on for a while. Really excited about this because I like Euro games. I like train games. I like 18xx games. Turns out
Which
that Village Rails is not any of that.
No.
But it was still a really good play. I really enjoyed that game.
It was definitely a fun little play. And that video is up if you haven't checked it out. In fact, we'll talk a little bit about that. In Village Rails, if you hadn't played it or didn't know what it was, don't sleep on this thing, particularly if you like a nice little, I wouldn't say it's abstract, but it's a tight little, even 2-player, but it goes 2 to 4-player, where you're playing cards, making these routes, but it goes by so fast. And it's just like, it happens to have a train theme. So if you don't like train themes, don't go, ugh, I don't want to play it. But the train theme and the box, and we said this in our video, it's what kind of made me go, nah, I don't know. But man, when we played it, I was like, oh wow, this is totally unlike what I expected.
Yeah.
You're laying cards in this, what is it, a 3x4 grid?
3x4 grid, 12
3x4 grid, building these routes from one edge of the board to the other, one of the other 2 edges of the board, and scoring points as you complete those routes. And then the game ends after you lay your 12th card.
It's a pretty quick game.
Yeah, very quick game. But yeah, Oathsworn has been fantastic, and I did want to talk a little bit in more detail about our experience comparing Oathsworn to Massive Darkness. Because Massive Darkness is a very just one-off sort of like just blast. I've played it more of it. In fact, I got Emily to the table with Alicia and Emily's partner Brian to play a 4-player game of Massive Darkness 2. And it took a few hours. I mean, we were at it for probably 3 hours. And at 4 players, it's very different. It's the first time I played it at 4 players. And the mobs are massive. So when you are attacking or getting attacked by a mob, there are 4 minions in that mob. And we've mentioned this before. That is a lot of minion dice being rolled at you. And if you're not careful, you could just die. It can go very quickly. Although we did get through it victoriously, but it was a lot of fun. And we played with some new characters. Alicia tried the Druid, which was actually the only new class that we tried. But the Druid is a lot more nuanced and a lot more sophisticated. It has a player figure, but then it has like an eagle, a bear, and a raccoon.
Oh, nice.
And once during your turn, the Druid can change forms. You can't do it more than once, but you can change forms. And then once you change to the bear, there's an immediate effect that happens the moment you change. Same thing with the raccoon, same thing with the eagle. And all 3 of those forms have kind of unique benefits. The raccoon can move very quickly and it has some benefits, but there are certain normal actions that you cannot take as the raccoon. As the eagle, there's certain actions you can't take. As the bear, there's certain actions you can't take. So it was a little bit more interesting in terms of trying to figure out, with her, because it's a co-op, like what form are you going to take? Because if you're the raccoon, you could run down the hallway really quick, pick up this treasure, and then get back out, which is really kind of what the raccoon was about.
I mean, that's the thing about Massive Darkness right there. Like, that's what the appeal of Massive Darkness is. There are, 20-something different characters?
Yeah.
I mean, a few classes, or actually probably 10 classes, but multiple characters for each class that you can combine, and you come up with these zany combinations, and the game is just fun with that. All those little mini games are just a blast.
It was, and plus the loot. And we've said this before. The loot is amazing, and in this game there were 4 players looking after the loot. So some of the players were doing less of that. Other players were going after the loot, and then we were having to do a lot more trading than we have in other games. Mm-hmm. Because in a 2-player game, usually both players are picking up some loot here and there. In this game, we decided these players were going to do a lot of the aggressive stuff. These other players are going to pick, a couple of us had a ton of stuff. And we were like, okay, come to my zone and I will trade and we'll just all disperse all this stuff. But it was a lot of fun.
And I want to mention one more before Jeremy closes us out. I just want to plug our live stream that we do live streams every Wednesday.
Oh.
If you want to see the surprise in David's face as he actually starts to enjoy Marvel Zombies.
It happened.
Check out our Marvel Zombies Zombicide game live stream because, like I said, when you play through those games, and the same thing is true, this is right on topic with these big box games, a lot of them start with a tutorial that's often boring because it just teaches you the mechanics, and then often maybe even the first scenario or first encounter is training wheels, and you don't really feel a challenge. If you stick through some of these and actually get to the game, it becomes fun or challenging in a way that you probably didn't expect. And I think that we kind of experienced that with Marvel Zombies too.
I totally experienced that. The other thing I would say that was playing into my initial feeling, not that I disliked it, I enjoyed the game, but I wasn't gaga over it like I was Massive Darkness 2.
Well, it's a very different
Another
style.
CMON game, and it is a very different style, and that is what I was getting at, is you have to change your mindset and go, okay, this game's this. It's not that.
Right.
It's something else. And when you change your mindset to that and understand, at least for me, when I look at a Zombicide style game, it's more of a, everything's going sideways and you're just really trying to balance all the plates at the same time and survive. This is not a game about like massive progression and gathering a bunch of stuff.
No.
It is about dealing with everything as it hits the fan. And man, we came so close. It was an exciting scenario.
You gotta watch.
It came right down to it. I won't spoil it. You'll have to watch it. I've done that before. Jeremy, what have you been playing?
So I'm going to give you 2 big box games. We're going to stay on theme. Yesterday, during my testing day, we got back to one of my top 5 games from 2022 was Guards of Atlantis 2. And we got that back to the table. Speaking of big box and content, there's 26 characters in that game. 26 characters. If you get the expansion and all that stuff. So tried a different character than I normally would try. We tried all different characters, added some in there. And we just have a heck of a time with that game. And it's just so interesting that you can get a game that has such like simplicity to it. And what cards can do. It's like, really, I'm just upgrading my 5 cards. I really have the same 5 cards, and I'm just playing them strategically and trying to play this MOBA style type game. And it's going to be 4 to 10 players. I mean, you can go pretty nuts with this game, and I look forward to playing with more people. It's just that you gotta trick people into getting to play it, because of course not everybody's into that MOBA style type game, but. I think that game is really, really sweet if you get a chance to get, an opportunity to play it. Hopefully you go, oh, you know what, Jeremy keeps talking about that game. I should give it a shot. Hopefully you do, because I think you'll enjoy it. The other game I've been playing is the Stonebound Saga, this game here.
You mean
this
Stone Saga?
Stone Saga. I keep saying Stonebound Saga. I keep thinking, I don't know why. There must be a video game I used to play called Stonebound Saga. And you're playing as these little adventurer guys, and you're going out and you're discovering things out in the land. You forage, you got fishing, you got all kinds of stuff. You even have crafting. But the cool part is that every one of those actions has like these cool little different things you do with cards. For crafting, you take like little dots and you connect the pieces. You connect them together and make like a number code. There's like when you forge, you take cards and you put them together, and it's like a visual puzzle kind of thing. So there's like all these little quirky little things that they've done to make an interesting twist on it, like an action adventure game. But you feel like you're just adventuring, and there seems like to be some Civ elements in there too that are coming as you go through the scenarios. So there's a lot of the game's just very interesting, which is what I thought. Same publisher as Stars of Alcario, so. Really excited about it, digging into it a little bit more. They only gave me 3 scenarios, which is enough for me to, get the true feeling of what the game is. But I look forward to digging more into this. I just played the tutorial, which was very, very much a handhold, like Ryan said, very much a handhold. So
that's really cool. You mentioned Hippocrates earlier, and it reminded me, Trolls and Princesses is another game that Emily and I played recently. In fact, as you're watching this, I'm sure we have a preview up on the channel already. This game is a worker placement game. And when I first heard the title, I was like, Trolls and Princesses, what could that be? But they used the artist who did Butoku, which had me kind of hooked because it looks really cool. It has a fairy tale looking vibe to it, as you might expect. But you have trolls, and your player board is this network of caves or caverns. You have these 3 caverns, which are these 3 different worker placement spaces that you can go to. And then there's a board out in the middle that has villages that are also worker placement spaces you can go to. When you go to any of these spaces, there's a laundry list of actions you can take. And this is one of those games where you're not just placing a worker and taking the action. You're placing a worker, and then you're looking at how many of your workers are in that location. And then you have that number of action points to spend on that laundry list. So the top thing might take several workers to do the action. That might be the only thing you do. Or you might do a smaller one and another smaller one, and then one last one with the worker, the last action point you have. The other cool thing is on the villages, some of those spaces require so much action points that you can use your trolls, other players' trolls, and then there's also this troll king that goes around.
Nice.
Kind of think of like a little, sort of like a Sandra. It's a figure that goes around during the game, but he just really benefits you. So wherever the troll king happens to be on your player board during your turn or in a village, if you take your actions there, it's going to benefit you because he helps. It's basically another action point to spend. It's a really interesting game. It's got a lot going on. It hurt my head a little bit because you have all those action points and you're trying to keep track of everything you're doing. But check that video out if you get a chance. Yeah. Either of you have any more to talk about that you played?
No, that's it for me. I've mostly been playing Marvel Snap.
Marvel Snap. Yeah, well, look for Ryan's going to do a big series on Marvel Snap. I'm kidding. But we'll probably have some Marvel Snap.
Oh, I've got one. I just did my top 5 Marvel Snap cards.
Oh, really?
So we'll see.
See if
people like that.
Look for that on the channel. Jeremy, anything else?
Oh no, I played Heat again yesterday. We've been playing Heat a lot lately.
We're going to be talking for another half hour.
My goodness, I could keep talking about that game, but it's just a fabulous game. I don't think anybody who has played, if you're not a racing fan, I think you still would enjoy this game. I really do. It's just such an easy game to get to the table. I've been playing with new people, just teaching them the game. I'm sure they're hearing that it's on the hotness. They wanted to try it. Showed it to a couple people at a con, me and my buddy, and just everybody just loves it. And they're not racing people. It's just a good game. I love that.
The thing about Heat 2, I don't know how to put this into words exactly, but it's a great example of a game. If you're going to have a big game day, it's an easy candidate to be one of the games.
It's like 6 players,
yes.
right?
It's 6 players.
Easy.
It's going to be different than anything else you play that day. It's just a nice game to sort of round out a game day of games.
And it doesn't take 3 hours.
It's not very long.
You just burn through it, yeah.
I just thought about this. You know why that works? And you're so right, is because even though we didn't do it this way, we were at 4 people, there was a group of people who came to the same cafe we were at, and they were like, we don't know what to play, or we're going to break up into 2 groups. And they were like, what can we play? And I was like, they were like, oh, Heat. And they got to, then they could all play at the same table. They didn't have to separate. So they had 6 people, and they got to play. So that's the kind of game that I love. We played the Great Split. That's another one, just game keeps wearing on me. Love that game. 1 hour, and you can play up to 7 people.
Yeah.
How many games do you have like that in your chamber? So those are the types of games that stick with me at these big games days that I've been having recently. But we played a lot of good games yesterday.
Cool.
Nice.
Not Wolves. Not Wolves.
So
Wolves
those are
good.
the games we've been playing. Tell us what games you've been playing. Tell us what you think about all these big box games. Do you have time in your life? Do you have room in your house?
Yeah.
For all of these big box games experiences. This has been episode 113 of Chit Chat. Join us again in probably 2 weeks for episode 114, where we'll talk about something related to board games. But until then, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.